Happy Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. This is Father Mark over at Christ Redeemer Catholic Church in Thibodaux. I want to welcome you back to our podcast entitled Seasons, and a conversation this week as we have together peered into the season of waiting. And while on Monday we talked about how even the season of waiting has a beginning and an end, and yesterday we talked about the particular personality that the season of waiting can have, it's important for us to also know that the season of waiting has something to teach us and it has something to accomplish in us. Today we're going to talk about what can we learn in a season of waiting. Tomorrow we'll peer into what is God trying to accomplish in us, particularly in that season of waiting. And of course, as you look at the season of waiting, we are probably aware that that God is trying to do something in our life. And if we can just remember that, if we can remember that even in the enduring the season of waiting, sometimes it feels like that, right? You're just enduring the wait. You can't wait for it to be over, right? If you can just rethink the way that you think and just know, okay, in the waiting, something good is happening. I'm being taught something. Then sometimes I can just give you a little bit of extra motivation to persevere as you are in a season of waiting. So what are you trying to learn? What is God trying to teach us in a season of waiting? Well, of course, as we talked about yesterday, God might be trying to reveal things that are hidden in our heart, right? And so as we wait, other emotions, they come to the surface. And we talked about that yesterday. That's one thing that he might be trying to teach us. But there are three things that I think we can learn specifically in a season of waiting. Number one, of course, we said yesterday, there's a difference between the waiting for God to do something versus waiting with God. And what we can learn in a season of waiting is how to just be present to the present moment, which I know that a lot of us are not in, right? When you're in a season of waiting, you can be so focused on the future when this thing's going to end, right? And we can miss the present moment and just the need to intentionally choose the present moment can teach us how to do that even once the season of waiting is over. First thing you can learn is how to just live in the present moment. The second thing that we're going to come face to face with in a season of waiting is the difference between what we want and what we need. And maybe one of the reasons why we're waiting for something to happen is because that's a want rather than a need. Now, I'm a big believer that it's important for us to pay attention to our desires. St. Augustine even said himself that prayer is a construction of our desires. Our desires are really important for us to pay attention to, especially those desires that are aligned with God. But we all have human needs. We have a need for security. We have a need to be heard. We have a need to not be alone, right? Those needs are deeper than our desires. And oftentimes, the reason we are waiting is because we feel like we're waiting for something that we want. And if all we are focused on is what we want, we can miss what we need. And it's those needs that often need to be met in healthy ways. And we can learn about those needs if we pay attention to the present moment and our hearts in the present moment. And then finally, when you're waiting, we actually might be waiting because God is trying to do something in someone else's life. Let me give you a concrete example. There was a time in my life many years ago where I was waiting for a particular relationship that had been, I think, wounded mutually by both of us. I had certainly been at fault with some negligence and even some anger there. And the friend that I was trying to reconcile with, right, they had also made some mistakes. And as just a friendship that was near to me in the past, I was trying to reconcile, and I was just waiting for this person to respond, right? I was waiting for this person to say yes, to reconcile the relationship. I had no idea that in order for that to happen, God had to do something in their life. I wasn't just waiting for reconciliation. I was waiting for them and what God was doing in them. And that's the case sometimes when you're waiting. Sometimes you're waiting because we don't see what God's doing in someone else's life. All that's hidden. We just see it when it comes out to the surface. So one of the things that we can learn in waiting is in the present moment how to intercede, to pray for the very people that are also connected to whatever it is you're waiting for, right? So 3 things that we can learn in this season of waiting. You can learn how to be more present to the present moment. Number 2, you can be attentive to, you can learn about the needs that you have as you are attentive to your wants. And number 3, we can learn how to pray for people as God is doing something in their life. Now, all that's happening as you wait, right? And so now that gives the season of waiting some purpose. And if the season of waiting has purpose, it has something to teach us, then we can wait with God and we can let life and the Lord teach us about what he's trying to do. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about what he's trying to accomplish. There are graces, there's maturity, there's maturation that God wants to bestow upon us in the waiting. But until that conversation unfolds tomorrow, let's take a look at how are you handling the waiting in your life, and what have you learned about yourself and about life in the past seasons of waiting? Or if you're there now, what are you learning about yourself now? Know that you're not alone, even in the midst of the wait. And until we find each other tomorrow, God bless you.